CIA and other U.S. agencies from releasing confidential files as October ending deadline looms. Babachir Lawal slams Emefiele and Bauer's continued detention. Sheik Gumi slams Wike, calls him satanic over collaboration with Israel. And the ex-minister of power reviews cabal sabotaging stable power supply in Nigeria. On the foreign scene, Biden reveals Egypt has agreed to allow 28 trucks into Gaza. Details now. The World News at 12 begins with President Bola Tinubu in yet another scramble to block records relating to him from being disclosed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and other United States services. Court filings seen by People's Gazette showed that President Tinubu's lawyers in the U.S. have filed motions to appear in an ongoing Freedom of Information action brought against the U.S. organizations where records that may help answer questions about the president's real identity and decades-long endeavors are domiciled. Christopher Carmichael, who is one of the lawyers who represented the President Tinubu in the recent Chicago records case, filed the motion dated October 18, 2023, stating that he was a lawyer in good standing to appear in the case in the FOIA lawsuit underway in Washington, D.C. The FBI said it was planning to release the records before the end of October to Aaron Greenspan, the proprietor of Plainsight, a website that pushes anti-corruption and transparency in public service. Several other U.S. institutions, including the U.S. State Department, Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, have all indicated the readiness to turn over thousands of pages of President Bola Tinubu-related records. The president's move comes 2 weeks after he lost a fierce battle to block a federal court in Chicago from releasing his academic records to Atiku Abubakar, his main political rival in Nigeria. The school ultimately released the records, which show that a certain Bola Tinubu was admitted into the school in 1977. Now to discuss these and other issues on the World News at 12 this afternoon, we have Mr. Cyril Abako, a political and social affairs commentator and analyst. Good afternoon, Mr. Abako.
Very good afternoon to you, Chairman. I'm glad to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. All right. So we have been expecting, it's October, the time that the FBI says they have 2,500 a whooping 2,500 files to release, on our president, on the Nigerian president, and they will start with 500 in October. Today is October 19th. We're yet to see anything, but the president's lawyers have made a move to try to block the FBI, the CIA, the DEA, the IRS from releasing any files at all. Could this be said? Could it be said that it is because they are incriminating, and that's why his lawyers doesn't want them to come out, or is this just a thing of we don't want you to breach the president's privacy? Because right now they're doing this under the Freedom of Information Act. It is to be released to a website which specializes in making sure that records are real and that what is out there is really what it is. If it is released, then everyone will have access to it on the Plainsight website. It's a website that pushes anti-corruption and transparency in public service. Now, could it be said, really, like I asked, that it is because they are incriminating, or they just want to protect the privacy, the person, and the integrity of the Nigerian president? I'd like to hear from you quickly.
Oh, well, the argument, again, is very straightforward. The president by now is not new to scrutiny. He is not new to people trying to dig up his identity, dig up his past, dig up his antecedents, and try to know him better. Perhaps one thing we can take away from the certificates issue just a few weeks back is the fact that Nigerians now got to know their president better. In any case, Chicago State University did come out to affirm that it was their student, and also produced a certificate to back up the claim
with different genders and different different documents.
Yeah, but at least the school went so far as to say he was their student. That was quite categorical. That was quite affirmative. Now we have come to the question of a more detailed look into the president's past, into everything that the president has done over the decades. Perhaps this will be one Nigerian president who will be coming under the most scrutiny since 1960. But the fact is, Is it necessary? Is it worth it? My argument has always been that when you aspire to be governor, president, if you didn't aspire to be anything, nobody would bother about you. But from the day you aspire to be a public servant or a public leader, and anybody has even the least inclination or suspicion as to your identity or what you might have done in the past, they have every right to find out. That I remember, many years ago, I was much younger when the junior George Bush was running for president. He merely announced his bid for the White House, and there was a news report that said that he had been arrested for drunkenness 25 years earlier. It came out. Who cares about what a bartender, what a waiter, what a waitress, what a car wash operator did 30 years ago? But as soon as the son of a former president came out to say he was vying for office, they came out and said this man had been arrested for drunkenness 25 years earlier. So once you offer yourself out for public service, you are invariably putting yourself up for scrutiny. So we cannot blame those trying to scrutinize the president. Now the fact is, the matter of privacy is quite controversial and dicey. But like I said, once you're president or anything of the sort, there must be scrutiny. Sometimes they even call them background checks before you even aspire to it. But in the case of Mr. President, this is citizens who are interested in what. Maybe they have a whiff, maybe they have what they want now, an inkling into what they feel may be revealed if they indeed went to search the president. I, for one, I don't think I would have. I'd be bothered if anybody wanted to know where I've been, what I've done. The records are there. Scrutiny and investigation is one, and transparency and accountability really are some of the hallmarks of which on which Western democracy has come to be built. A president can be scrutinized. How much did he spend in office? How much does he spend on his shoes, toothbrush, his ties, his cufflinks, and so on? They all know. So, for example, if the American president wants to eat, he does not eat government food. He buys the food he eats. If mistakenly he throws up or urinates in the White House, he will pay for the cleaning of that of that spot. They're that thorough and detailed. But in Nigeria, the president or governor is a big man. Nobody should scrutinize or ask him questions about what he might have done. I think that this scrutiny isn't bad. I don't think the president has anything to hide. If the matter now goes into technicalities and court processes and people are beginning to ask more questions and the president is fighting tooth and nail to not want anything about his past to come out, then it will begin to give people an impression that indeed something is there to hide. But if there's nothing to hide, I don't think there should be any attempt to try to cover up anything or try to prevent it from coming to light. If
there is nothing to hide, his lawyer shouldn't be trying to block the FBI. But then 2,500 files, that is a lot at 500 files per month. Like I said, it's already the 19th of October. When are we to expect this? Are we to expect that this suit will actually work in stopping the FBI and other agencies from releasing these documents?
You see, my joy is that the American system doesn't work like ours. In American system, law is law. The Constitution cannot be overlooked or overridden. It's the law and it stands. The president cannot influence the courts. In America, nobody will tell you go to court. Go to court. In America, nobody, if you put up a billboard saying all eyes on the judicial, nobody will be offended in America. So that's one good thing we have there. America is a country where somebody goes to court, uses some technicality to strike out a case at the expense of substantive justice. You won't see that happen in America. So I'm glad. Whatever comes out of the court proceedings, Choma, will also stand as part of the enlightenment process, as part of developing the judicial process, as part of enriching judicial history, to say was a citizen right in asking questions about his president. So now, for example, our president said in France the other time that he was a very brilliant student and that he always made the dean's list every semester. It was okay. Chicago State University came out and said that indeed he had been their student. Now, he had worked at Mobile as treasurer. He was a former senator. It's like saying he's been there, done that. Okay, so he's traveled widely. So it means that he is a man on whom a treasure trove of documents definitely do exist. Exactly, especially perhaps the Adekunle and Ahmed dichotomy.
Does that mean the fact that his lawyers are trying to block this does not mean that they are criminal documents?
Well, until they're out, nobody knows. But I personally wouldn't think that the first assumption, I think, so like I said, I won't make my first assumption to say they're criminal, but I think it's, it's like saying it is when these lawyers now want to fight tooth and nail, want to cover everything up, that people begin to assume that is there something else to hide there. Choma, you see, no matter how much you want to be governor, president, and be open, there are still some things about your life that you just feel or wish would be should be left personal. So, for example, if a former president who perhaps has gone through a divorce, do you want the public to know the details of the terms? For example, how much you're paying in child support and so on. It's his life, but I mean, a governor, let's say in California or Tennessee, may not be so happy having those details come out publicly, because being president, people now know those things. But how about the other parties involved, his wife and other children involved? So that's why I said it's a two-way thing, okay? But the way his lawyers will want to go about it is what will now show whether indeed he's trying to hide something, or he's just trying to keep his privacy to say, guys, I'm president. Why do you want to know everywhere I've gone? Everywhere I've gone to dine, everywhere I've gone to wine, everywhere I've visited in the past. Really, is that really your business? But again, as president, if push came to shove and people had to know, then they had to know. George Bush was arrested for drunkenness 25 years before he declared to run for president. It came to light. By the way, none of that made him not to win the presidency. Okay, in Bola Tinubu's case, he's already president of Nigeria. So he's there, really. He's there. What we get to know about him, I don't see what it changes, but it would be good if we knew.
Even if these files come out and they have what we could call incriminating documents among them, it's not going to change anything.
Well, if there is hard evidence, as the Americans say, the smoking gun of criminal activity or criminal involvement, then of course court proceedings will be initiated. The Senate and House of Reps will be encouraged to also look into the law books of the country and to see what appropriate measures ought to be taken. But above all, it will not be good for the image of Nigeria. I don't know, when people talk about this criminal, I don't know what they are, but I don't think that any president getting involved in any criminal activity of certain magnitude in the past or will be good for the country. Already, when it looked as if the BBC report and the Chicago State University came to say categorically, no, CSU particularly, that he was a student, already, that didn't rub off good on Nigerians. They began to profile us overseas and to say certificate issues here and there. Yeah, but I mean, let's see what comes out of it first before we can now know what it could be about and what should be the right. But believe me, if it is damningly criminal in nature, definitely we would expect that appropriate measures are taken.
All right, then let's
by relevant authorities
move forward. The former secretary to the government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal, on Wednesday knocked the administration of President Bola Tinubu over the continued detention of the immediate past chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, and the erstwhile governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, without trial. Bawa, who was the first EFCC boss who did not come from the ranks of the Nigerian police, was taken into custody by the Department of State Services, DSS, on June 14, as after the president suspended him. The prolonged detention has continued to raise questions occasioned by a number of protests by human rights groups and activists calling on the DSS to charge them in court. Sharing the same views, Babachir Lawal disclosed in a statement issued on Wednesday that the people have a right to demand a Nigeria that guarantees freedom of speech and human rights for all. For about 3 days now, Mr. Baku, Babachir Lawal has been in the news for coming out to give his opinion on issues that are recent and not so recent. On this particular issue, he noted that it is indefensible to keep the EFCC chairman and the CBN governor under arrest for extended period of time without or before trial. He also said it is unacceptable that political parties are used to intimidate and harass citizens exercising their opinions on the public domain, referring to the 2023 elections, like he spoke about 2 or 3 days ago. Now, he said, and I quote, "If Bola Tinubu claims he fought Abacha on the side of democracy and free speech, it is unbecoming and unacceptable that the NBC should threaten journalists under his watch." How do you weigh in?
Yeah, so let me quickly say that I personally have no way of confirming these things, but people in the know, word on the street is that Babachir Lawal and Tinubu used to be very, very close friends and allies, political allies. And that, as a matter of fact, Bola Tinubu might have had a hand in making him SGF under Buhari's government in 2015. Okay, so this is clearly a case of two friends, two people who used to be two playing, turn two fighting. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Secondly, the matters he has raised, are they strong? Yes. Are they genuine? Yes. Are they true? Yes. Could the president have done better? Of course, the president should be doing better. Now, Abdul Rashid Baba's detention, for me, does not seem to have strong legal grounds for that. I mean, even also moral grounds. In the Mifele's own case, it's clear that this man is likely going to become the new Dasuki, as Buhari also had Dasuki in his time. The other day was the DSS that came out to say that in compliance with the court order, they were now going to charge Emefiele to court. And we were wondering, so if court didn't give order, you would not have charged him to court. It is clear to the discerning. It is visible to the blind and audible to the deaf, as they say, that the way we are looking at these men, they are what we're facing is persecution rather than prosecution. When the court said this man be taken away in the case of Emefiele, the DSS went back and took him into custody when he really should have been in the custody of the correctional facilities. So clearly, this is not a matter of let's follow the law. It's about these men these men went out of line and we must deal with them. That's the way I read the situation. Babashir Lawal is correct. In a democracy, under a Democrat government, I mean, except this is pseudo democracy, but you cannot be a Democrat. You cannot be touting the rule of law. And then when it comes to this sort of matters, former EFC chairman, former former Central governor, and there's one more person. Nigerians have been shouting that how about the man that is regulating the oil industry in Nigeria? And the way it looks, the man is having a field day. People have said, if you touch EFC and NNPC, why don't EFC and CBN? Why don't you also touch NNPC? The
NNPC or Boss Melekiari.
Of course, but you see that one, it appears
people have also called for the sack of the INEC chairman as well.
There are so many of them. When the president retired the service chiefs, the security architecture, he didn't quite touch everybody. Is that to say,
pardon me, that the EFC, that the INEC and the NNPCL boss, they are the ones towing the lines that were laid down for them?
Well, so this is wild conjecture, but I cannot. I won't put it that way. What I'd rather think is to say that the president, if he wanted to go the whole hog, he should have done it with the entire old guard, so that Nigerians can have a fresh of breath air, and then people can bring in and inject new ideas, of how to run the economy, fight insecurity, and help him to build the country in line with his renewed hope agenda. But failure to have done so. You can look at the CBN now. There's a new governor, Dr. Yemi Cardoso. You can see he has brought in a different set of ideas, and he has lifted the forex ban on rice, toothpick, and so on. Okay, good. So, in the case of the EFCC too, well, somebody who, in my opinion, didn't qualify has become chairman of the EFCC. But then, again, you cannot tell me that things will remain the same in the way it was under Baba and way to be under Olukoyede. So clearly, we needed a new lease of life at the NNPC. But the president, for good reason or for good measure, has decided that he wouldn't do it with Melekere and Co. Maybe he has his reasons. Perhaps he will find out why he should have done it with them much earlier later. But whatever the case is, this is what the president has decided to do, and we can only give him benefit of that and wait how it plays out.
All right, let's talk about the Israel-Palestine and how it's affecting Nigerians right now. Controversial Islamic scholar Sheik Gumi has described the minister of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) Nyesom Wike as satanic. Gumi made the remark while condemning Wike for receiving the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria in his office and planning to collaborate with Israel over security issues in Abuja. In a sermon on his Facebook page, he said the minister plans to make Abuja an extension of Tel Aviv. He said bearded Muslims in Abuja will be tagged Osama bin Laden and killed. He also insisted that it was dangerous to entrust Nigeria's national security to the hands of Christians and the Southerners. You spoke about wild conjecture. And right now, Sheik Gumi is saying, oh, he's a Christian, he's a Southerner, he's going to kill us all. According to Gumi, I'm going to quote him verbatim right now. He says, the minister of the FCT is a satanic person. I said it before when he was appointed and some people were grumbling. He has gone and brought the Israeli ambassador. That's what someone sent. And I am yet to watch it. But what he is confirmed is he said they will collaborate with the Israelis on Abuja security issues. Abuja will now become an extension of Tel Aviv. And when they see anyone with a beard like us, they will say it is Bin Laden and we will be killed.
What kind of whipping up of sentiment is this? This is absolutely absurd. Coming from Sheik Gumi, it's entirely absurd. But for what it is worth, let me just put something down. The Nigerian president, Bola Tinubu, has very, very cordial, very, very warm relations with his American counterpart. America has done everything they can to support Bola Tinubu, work with him, made him to have similar good relations with the UK, with France, and with all of America's allies. And Israel is a well-known ally of the United States. As at yesterday, the president of America was in Tel Aviv. He met his Israeli counterpart Bibi Netanyahu. They had very good conversations. Israel is backing. The US is backing Israel all the way in their offensive in the Gaza. But let me say this: every country in the world rather needs Israel, whether you like them or not. It's a different issue. But you need Israel. You need them either for their agriculture or for their security or for whatever it is. You need Israel. It's a pity that by merely having talks with the minister, somebody is shouting and saying this sort of wild. Which
actually came a few days before that attack, if you recall. That meeting was about 2 weeks ago.
So making this very wild goose claims is not right. It was a certain Sheik Gumi, I think his father or grandfather, who took Nigeria into the inaugural meeting of the Islamic countries in Morocco, 1960 whatever it was, and later Nigeria joined the IOC. Where Nigeria is a member of the IOC, the OIC. Have we now become an Islamic country? We are part of the group of 77. There's a group that includes Islamic finance. We have a Islamic bank in Nigeria. Have we become an Islamic country? The way he's saying this thing just makes it look as if, by merely shaking hands with the Israeli prime minister. Israel, for good measure, is not even a Christian country. Israel practices Judaism. Half of them are atheists. There are more Christians in Palestine than you even have in Israel. Okay? The other day, does Israel welcome Christians? They hardly do. So you cannot now talk about a Judaic country coming to partner with a secular nation like Nigeria.
Where we have several different
Nigeria our constitution says that we are secular, but in our constitution also talk about Sharia. The Nigerian constitution does not talk about ecclesiastical law, which should be the Christian law. There's nothing about that in the constitution. And
if it does, it will not have to make space for the traditional worshippers.
So
as well.
In essence, Nigeria gives room for Sharia. Period. So if you pick a constitution, in one breath it says it's secular, in another breath it talks of Sharia. That tells you that if there was any religion that we should be leaning to, it should even be Islam. So to be making this sort of wild claims and trying to whip up sentiment, this kind of thing can cause another Boko Haram in Abuja. And if it happens, they should hold Sheik Gumi to account. This sort of things, coming from a man as learned and I thought as liberal as this man is I'm sorry, it's unbecoming.
All right, then let's move forward because of our time. The new chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, says about 2.9 trillion naira meant for some government projects were diverted into personal use by contractors between 2018 and 2020. Mr. Olukoyede disclosed this on Wednesday when he appeared before the Senate for screening. The upper chamber confirmed him after the exercise. He noted that he conducted a survey between 2018 and 2020 on 50 entities in Nigeria, both human and corporate entities. He also noted that he picked just one scheme and one species of fraud, which is the contract and procurement fraud, and discovered that within the 3 years, Nigeria lost 2.9 trillion naira. Mr. Olukoyede said the stolen funds during the period under review would have been used for useful government projects if the former authorities of the anti-corruption agency had prevented it. from being diverted. Elsewhere, former Minister of Power, Bath Naji, has alleged that diesel suppliers and generator dealers are sabotaging efforts for Nigerians to enjoy regular power supply. Mr. Naji, a professor, made this known while featuring on the radio program in Umuahia on Wednesday. The former minister said the endless breakdown of the national grid had remained a significant concern among Nigerians. According to him, this is despite the federal government's claim of spending 7 trillion naira as direct interventions in the power sector, even after privatizing the electricity generation and distribution arms of the industry since November 2013. He said the power sector needed professionals who understood the Nigeria electricity supply industry to manage it. He further alleged that the power sector, just like others, had some cabal who make gains from the problems of poor power supply. All right, I still have with me Mr. Cyril Abaku, a political and social affairs commentator and analyst, speaking on these issues. I tended to combine these two because when you listen to these figures, 2.9 trillion, 7 trillion here, and you're looking at right now the federal government trying to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy, and they want to share 25,000 naira to 15 million households. But then you have the new EFCC chairman saying, look, even before he dreamt of becoming EFCC chairman, between 2018 to 2020, he had conducted his own investigation, a survey that showed that a whooping sum of 2.9 trillion naira went into the pockets of the contractors that they were supposed to use for certain contracts. And at the end of the day, you're asking yourself, all of these figures, where did this money go?
No, and first of all of this happened under Mr. Anti-Corruption President Buhari, who ironically ran the most corrupt government in Nigerian history. And believe me, he may not even have been aware that this was happening under him as a president. So
we have the former EFCC chairman also. Would also not have been aware?
Those monies had nothing to do with the EFCC. It had to do with the fact that contractors didn't do their work. Now, did the EFCC know? Were they tracking them? Were they investigating? Was the president even aware that people he was giving money to were not doing their jobs, and he kept on giving more money out? That in itself is criminal. But the point to be made is very simple and clear. Perhaps if Olukoyede did his own work, he may realize that money is even more than that 3.2 million that he's quoting. That's one. So number two, quickly, can we tidy up the investigation? Can we go after them? Can we arrest them? Can we prosecute them? Can we in record time convict them? Can we get back the monies? Can we then re-award the contracts? And can they be done? I'm not surprised, because if you even had everything that Minister Dave Umahi has been saying in the past few weeks, it is clear that the sort of corruption that took place in the past administration was humongous and mind-blowing. Now, to the second story of the second story about power in no, but of course, this is obvious truth. He himself was a victim of those of that cabal, the generator importers, the diesel people. Look, what we don't have in Nigeria is the will. And Chairman, to be very frank, I doubt if the current generation of political operators in Nigeria have the will to confront this behemoth. They don't have it. They will not be able to. This current generation of this current political class, but the power elite, they don't have the will to confront this behemoth. So I'm not expecting any significant change in the way things have done, especially in the power sector. It's not very likely to happen. It's not likely to happen. Those guys are holding Nigeria, where it matters. And who wants to lose his life because of lack of power supply? We simply lack the will, and I don't see that will coming being born anytime soon. That's the problem. I'll leave it there.
All right, then. Thank you so dearly, Mr. Cyril Abaku, for joining me on the World News at 12 this afternoon.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming. You are still listening to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. On the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden said on Wednesday that Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has agreed to open the Rafah crossing into Gaza to allow a first batch of around 20 humanitarian aid trucks through. Although he said the shipment would likely not cross until Friday, as the road at the crossing needed repairs. The U.S. president also said the first 20 trucks will be a test of a system for distributing aid, without allowing the Palestinian militant organization Hamas, which controls Gaza, to benefit from it. The United Nations is set to distribute aid on the Gaza side of the border. He noted that if Hamas confiscates it or doesn't let the shipment go through, then it is going to end because Israel and the US will not be sending any more humanitarian aid. He also added that the 20 trucks represented a first tranche, but 150 or so trucks are waiting in total. President Biden characterized his trip to the war zone as a success and said that while expressing U.S. support for ally Israel, he was very blunt with the Israelis on the need to allow aid into Gaza. And that's it on the World News at 12. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that President Tinubu has moved to block the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, DEA, and other U.S. agencies from releasing confidential files as October ending deadline looms. Babachir Lawal has slammed Emefiele and Bawa's continued detention in the custody of the DSS. Sheik Gumi has slammed Wike, calling him satanic over what he called his collaboration with Israel. And the former Minister of Power has revealed that the cabal is sabotaging stable power supply in Nigeria. On the foreign scene, Biden reveals Egypt has agreed to allow 20 aid trucks into Gaza. And that is a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Ijeoma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM for coverage of your live events and brand news mentioned on our news bulletins. Do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good afternoon and thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for matters coming up next.